Another 30 days means another month of gaming news, and as you've probably guessed, we once again start with the circus of Activision Blizzard. Long-time viewers will be more than aware of the lawsuit against the company, which saw the state of California sue for its shoddy treatment of workers, but the plot has since thickened. This month the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, has been accused of interfering in the lawsuit with the intent of favoring the interests of the company. The accusation comes from the Assistant Chief Counsel for California's Department for Fair Employment and Housing, Melanie Proctor, who recently won second place for the most boring job title in the world. Melanie Proctor detailed that the governor would demand advanced notice of the litigation strategy they would be using in the case, and that her boss refusing to give them to Governor Newsom was purely to protect the agency's independence. In the end, Melanie Proctor would go on to resign in protest of her boss's firing, and all allegations toward Governor Newsom would be denied by his team. It would be disingenuous to say that it was all bad news in the offices of Activision Blizzard, as it would be announced that all 1,100 of its US-based quality assurance workers would be moved to full-time positions and see their pay increased to $20 an hour. The same concessions would not be made for the quality assurance testers at Raven Studios, due to them forming a union earlier in the year, which due to a legal loophole, could disqualify them from receiving such benefits. In any case, we're now 90 seconds into a video about gaming news, so let's start talking about video games. This month Blizzard would reveal the next World of Warcraft expansion, titled Dragonflight, which as the marketing team framed it, would be designed to put classic style systems back into the game. The expansion would feature new zones to explore, classic style talent trees, and as you might have guessed, rideable dragons. Other features like professions, resource gathering, and the user interface was also set for an overhaul, while the overall level cap has been raised to 70. With the alpha releasing soon, it will be interesting to know if this expansion will satisfy both the hardcore player base and those who have since jumped over to competitors like Guild Wars 2 and Final Fantasy XIV. We now jump over to something that Uncle Swag actually understands. The NDA was finally lifted for those lucky enough to be invited into the Overwatch 2 closed alpha. Although initially restricted to professional players, the alpha would soon be open to both Overwatch content creators and journalists, although apparently not those who sit in the middle of this Venn diagram. Initial impressions of the game have depended heavily on who you ask, with IGN describing the alpha as visually incredible, but showing concerns for the longevity of its PvP. Overwatch YouTube creators were far more positive on the changes, with Fredo from Your Overwatch describing the game as easier for newcomers and much less dependent on team play. He also commented that he preferred the 5-player teams and that the removal of the second tank makes the old maps feel less congested. Other players were less sold on the experience, with support mains in particular, stating that although damage dealers got a new character and tanks got a ton of reworks, supports really only got their power reduced to compensate for the smaller team sizes. In this degenerate Overwatch fans' humble opinion, the new changes look fucking excellent, and although some might complain about the lack of new content, I think that misses the point of what a pre-release playtest is supposed to be. The team has recently stated that they want Overwatch 2 to have far more consistent content updates when it finally releases to the public, and if keeping their cards close to their chest lets them do this, I'm not about to pretend I know better than an entire team of experts. As it stands, the Overwatch 2 beta has been opened to a wider group of players who have applied to take part, so if Uncle Swag gets an invite, expect a video out sometime in May. If not, then expect more coverage on the top 10 war crimes of the past month. Truly the duality of man. Meanwhile, Cyberpunk's first expansion has been given a 2023 release. Jason Momoa is rumored to be starring in a Minecraft movie, and both Max Payne 1 and 2 will be receiving remakes. It seems like every big tech company is trying to rush into the metaverse race, with the very latest being Sony. This month, the company invested an easy $1 billion into the metaverse project from Epic Games, which follows its $450 million investment only last year. In talking about their spending spree, Sony stated that they were confident in Epic's powerful engine, and that with the assistance of Sony's technologies, they could fast track their vision for the development of new digital experiences. We are likely a while away from a Ready Player One style virtual world. However, companies such as Sony seem to be learning quite quickly that sharing their intellectual property can be insanely profitable. In other news, lizard robot Mark Zuckerberg also made headlines for his attempt at a metaverse after it was unveiled that virtual asset creators would be expected to give up 47.5% of their revenue to the company itself. These revelations came with heavy backlash, as Mr. Zuckerberg had previously criticized Apple's App Store for charging a fee of 30%. No one asked for my opinion, but Meta's vision for the metaverse might just be the most cooked shit I've ever heard. Their intention is to bet the entire future of the company on a plan predicated on strapping VR headsets to an increasingly older user base for long periods of time in an attempt to take half of everything they earn. In any case, since YouTube's ad revenue cut is 45%, you all get to enjoy today's sponsor. Long-time viewers will know that I've been covering news for over 3 years, and over that time, the most common question I'm asked is which news sources are the most reliable. As of now, I actually have an answer. Ground News is the world's first news comparison platform, which is designed to both filter bias and maximize factual reporting. Unless you're like myself, who can dedicate 2 full weeks every month poring over sources with the help of an entire news team, you probably don't have time to stay reasonably informed without bias or bullshit. Social media algorithms are pretty much designed to feed you biased information to maximize retention. News outlets can effectively say whatever they want without consequence, and every big news organization is usually owned by someone who has a lot to gain by shifting public perception in a certain way. To tackle this, Ground News compiles and summarizes 30,000 articles a day, gives you the same stories from a multitude of different sources, and even purposely feeds you news that would likely be outside of your own filtered bubble of information. Ground News even compiles the factual ratings and political alignments of news outlets, and will even show you who owns these companies in the first place. After all, if a news outlet reported that you should be brushing your teeth 7 times a day, you'd probably want to know if the owner was a majority shareholder of Colgate. Ultimately, the only bad thing I could say about Ground News is that they could possibly put us out of business. But if you're looking to stay informed between our monthly news releases, I really couldn't recommend their website or mobile application more highly. Ground News. It's the opposite of Sky News Australia, so it must be good. Meanwhile, China bans the live streaming of unapproved video games. Kingdom Hearts 4 and Kingdom Hearts Missing Link have been revealed, and Kim Kardashian sues Roblox after her son uses the platform to discover her claim to fame. It's no secret that Elden Ring has found insane success, and since its release, the game has been the battleground for masochistic players ready to flex their skills. The current speedrunning community especially has managed to break the game entirely, with the current record holder being able to go from start to finish in just under 7 minutes. This has been made possible by using a zip glitch, which allows players to teleport across a part of the map instantaneously. The record holder, by the name of Distortion 2, says there is still room for improvement, though he himself is done with Elden Ring speedrunning for the time being. However, he wasn't the only player making waves within the Elden Ring community, with a player by the name of Let Me Solo Her, who has taken it upon himself to join the worlds of other players to take down the game's hardest boss all by himself. The boss is of course Melania, Blade of Miquella, who wields 2 katanas, is able to self-heal, inflicts passive damage, can pull off one-shot combos whenever she fucking wants, and even has a more deadly second stage. Wearing only a fashionable pot on his head, oftentimes this player would complete the boss fight without getting hit once, and so his legend began to grow. Witnesses began pouring in about stories of his unbelievable feats, which was quickly followed by 3D models and fan art to immortalize him in the FromSoft history books. The mysterious player would later reveal his identity on Reddit and would state that they'll likely be helping other Tarnished on their journey for a long time to come. The world could always use more heroes. Halo Infinite's second season has finally been revealed, which will bring a host of new content to the now 6-month-old shooter. The Lone Wolf season brings with it a second battle pass, 2 new maps, and 3 new game modes. King of the Hill makes a return with some slight variations and joins a new mode called Last Spartan Standing, which will be the game's 12-player take on a battle royale style offering. The last mode is Land Grab, which will see Spartans race to buy up cheap real estate in underdeveloped suburbs before gentrifying the area in an attempt to get the greatest return. Players who score kills within an opposing team's neighborhood will be able to decrease their property value, while completing bounties for local officials can speed up your own rate of development. The fan reaction to the release has remained mixed, with many happy with the new additions, but others lukewarm on the slow rate of development. With most live service games aiming for 3-month seasons between big content releases, having to wait 6 months might make it difficult for the game to retain players, and for a free-to-play title in the shooter space, retention is everything. The good news is that long-awaited features like Forge and Campaign Co-op have been given a rough release of August to September this year, and although having these features added a year after release might be too late for some, others are just happy that the developers didn't have to endure crunch to get these features made. Season 2 is set to launch on the 3rd of May. A co-writer for the Portal series has stated that he'd be interested in making a 3rd installment in the franchise. Interviewed in the Kiwi Talks podcast, Eric Walpole said, quote, "We've got to start Portal 3. That's my message to whoever. I'm not getting any younger. We're reaching the point where it's crazy to think that we are literally going to be too old to work on Portal 3, so we should just do it. Whether this kind of talk will actually lead to a sequel is anyone's guess, as Valve has developed a reputation of never making a 3rd installment for any of its properties. As it stands, Valve's ability to scoop up 30% of all sales on Steam has allowed them to transcend the need to release games at all, and it's long been a concern that many of their properties are so beloved that nothing could ever live up to already monumental expectations. When considering the value of their reputation, the company likely isn't concerned with going through so much effort to make a game that will likely only thicken its revenue stream by 0.5% for 1 quarter. It's unlikely that we'll ever see the day where Valve learns to count to 3, but it's nice to know that there are people on the inside who are still trying to make it happen. In terms of new releases, April saw the launch of LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, MLB The Show 22, and Chrono Cross, The Radical Dreamers Edition. May is set for another slow month of game releases, including 2 Point Campus, Sniper Elite 5, and Trek to Yomi. Viewers who want to keep up with our regular news can turn on notifications to be the first one to know when it goes live. But until next time, have a fucking good one.